Welcome back to my channel and to the discussion about long-term care for our parents. Um, if you're new to the channel or to the discussion, welcome. Uh, we are talking about caring for a parent long distance. However, the same things we're talking about actually, many of them apply even if you live right next door to your parents. The idea is that there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of emotions, a lot of uh, practical considerations, financial considerations, and a lot of, um, well, just as I said, a lot going on. So there's people to consider, other family members, other friends of the parent, your parents' social situation. There's a lot. So I am trying to discuss all of these things um, as rationally as I can. If you watched any of my first couple of videos, you can tell that that there was a lot of emotion. I kind of rambled a little bit. I am doing my videos with as little editing as possible, um, just to show the reality of life and the situation. Um, I believe in one of my videos I referred to keeping it real and raw, and that's really what I'm trying to do, is just discuss it all as openly as I can while maintaining the anonymity of my family and friends. Excuse me. Still working on that cough. But I am trying to demonstrate the reality of it. There's all these self-help books and all the documentaries, and I think sometimes we get caught up in either being too practical and forgetting to look at the feelings and the emotional side, because that's very real and it's definitely a big part of um, what we deal with. Or we get so emotional and so distraught that we forget how to be practical. So I'm trying to bring in all of it and just show the reality, with the ups and downs, and hopefully demonstrate that there can be a balance. We can deal with the practical things as well as have our feelings about it. So, as I said, today I really wanted to talk about flexibility. And this was actually inspired by a Dharma talk I listened to, given by a Buddhist monk, Ajahn Sudi. He's a Theravada monk, Theravada tradition, and he made this amazing analogy that just entertained me and kind of drove home the point a little bit about flexibility. And he said to be like a sock, because a sock is flexible and stretchy, and it's not a one size fits all. It's not a solid shoe size or dress size where if you're this size, you're this size. The sock will stretch from size 2 to 8 or 9 to 11 or whatever the sock size is. but the point is a sock is flexible. This situation might be a size 2. This situation might be a size 7, and the sock will stretch and have give and expand and contract to fit the situation. So he says, be like a sock and be flexible because every situation is not the same. Every day is not the same. And sometimes things don't go to plan. So, yes, I'm using the word so a lot. I'm working on it. In our situation, plan A was my mom was diagnosed with COPD. My stepfather was still alive. He was going to be around and he was going to take care of her. The plan was, how do we take care of him after mom left us? Well, we had a monkey wrench. My stepdad ended up with um, cancer, and I believe it was less than a month from diagnosis to burial. So that all happened rather quickly. Big change in the plans because clearly when we thought he would outlive mom, mom outlived him. So plan B. Plan B is mom wants to stay in her home. She had thought about downsizing, even started selling off some things, giving things away. We looked at the finances and determined that it was more financially feasible for her to stay in her home than to downsize and move into an apartment because the cost of her mortgage is actually less than the average apartment. And when you add the cost of utilities and everything, it balanced out. Plus, she would get to stay in her home for nearly 30 years with the comfort, the comfort factor, her own things around her, not dealing with the hassle of trying to get rid of everything and move. So that seemed to be the right thing to do. Mom will stay home as long as she can, and we would, get help around the house as needed. That worked out um, pretty well. I mean, that worked out until recently. She did get help around the house, as you've heard me talk about before. Um, she got some help with house cleaning as she became weaker and less able to get out. Um, it's more difficult for her to go outside, so she has somebody bring the mail into her and bring in her newspaper every day. And my very active mom, who thought she was going to be running around, traipsing all over the world forever, ended up being relatively sedentary. But she comes, she would get dressed, come downstairs for breakfast, sit at her kitchen table, read her newspaper, do the puzzles in the paper, call a friend, that sort of thing. And then around lunchtime, she'd move to her computer and built a little bit of a social life online. Good for her. Yay, mom. So we're happy that she's got something going on. Um, Over time, she got weaker, and for a while, she was still going to church. She eventually got to where she couldn't drive. Somebody would pick her up. Then she started getting anxiety and quit going to church and started really living her entire life in her bedroom and her kitchen. Yes, the computer's in the kitchen. She the way she's got it set up, it works for her. Great. Way to go, mom. Great adaptability, sort of. But she's still kind of locked herself in a little bit of a box. And I tried to, knowing how important church was to her and her Sunday school, I tried to get her to um, get the message online, via YouTube, listen to, ministers online. She won't do that. Um, Again, sometimes the family has to be a little more flexible when the patient themselves is kind of steadfast and hardwired into their ideas and routines. Okay. That's fine. That's helpful. However, when we get to a point that their ideas are no longer practical, like having to go to a long-term care facility, yay, nobody wants that. But it is what has to happen sometimes. So, in mom's case, we are trying to keep her routine as normal as possible. The person bringing her mail is now bringing it to her in her new, hopefully temporary home. Um, the cleaning person is still coming to see her and run a few errands and that sort of thing. So hopefully, we're trying to keep her routine intact. She's got access to her computer. She is getting dressed and getting online now from her new place. She's not just lying in bed like she did the last 2 weeks. Major improvement in her attitude in that regard, I would say. But again, things don't always go as planned. So it is important to have a, a level of adaptability. We have to be able to change as circumstances change. We have to change with it. We have to grow. Um, there's that old saying about if you keep growing, or if you become stagnant, and that's when you deteriorate. Or, with businesses, you adapt to society or you go under. So, I mean, I don't know if there's really any going under in a situation like your parents' health. Um, they are eventually going to leave us. That's a fact. That we cannot prevent it. It will happen. The idea is not to dwell on that, not to get stuck in worrying about, well, oh, I'm so sad because mom's sick. Oh, dad's gonna die. Yes, but let's make the most of the time with them while we have it and keep quality of life for parents and for us. So things don't always go as we want them to. So we have to be able to, um, I guess, the saying is to go with the flow, which is kind of a Taoist thing. To understand things are going to happen and to be patient and go where they lead. See where it takes us and act on that. So right now the situation has taken us to mom being in a care facility, which was never in the plan, uh, and mom needing more help than she ever expected to. Again, not in the plan, but you just sometimes have to accept it and go with it. Make it work, so to speak. So now we're finding a new normal, and that's something that I know a lot of people have to deal with. A coworker a few years ago, his wife suddenly passed away. 4 children. He was taking them to school, came home, and found his wife had passed in the few minutes he was away. Terrible, tragic for his kids. And he kept referring to a new normal as he had to get the kids used to one parent and a change to the routine. And so now we are getting used to a new normal. And it it has to happen. Now, it doesn't have to happen. People can fight it. You can fight it and complain and refuse to make the changes like my mom did for a long time. She was not going to get any more help than what she had. Even when they brought her home from the hospital, she thought she was going to stay home and go about things as normal. She'd get her strength up and go about life as she had done. And then we had a really rough experience, and she realized, at least for now, she can't do that. So it's also important for family to be flexible because in um, in the case of another friend of mine, I believe I discussed him briefly. There was a plan that one sibling was the primary caretaker of the parent, and the primary caretaker, he passed away. Well, that changes the plans. So the entire family had to adapt, create a new schedule for the um, the care of the parent, and again find a new normal. They had to make changes, and it's easier if you just keep that attitude of flexibility. Know that it isn't going to stay the same. It will change, regardless of what we've got working now. it will change. There's always going to be something that happens, and we have to be able to adapt and move forward and create uh, a new link in the chain, a new piece of the plan. So I just wanted to get that out there and discuss the importance of flexibility and the tragedies that can happen when we don't adapt. In my mom's case, she was fortunate somebody was with her with the incident that put her in the hospital. She easily could have been home alone. It was just fortunate that someone happened to be with her because it easily could have gone the other way and no one be there. So, in her situation, she was bound and determined to stay the same. She was going to keep living her life the way she was living her life. She didn't want the interference of people. She was perfectly fine taking care of herself the best she could, no matter how hard she struggled to do it. And then she collapsed. And someone was there and they got her to the hospital. Great. I'm so happy someone was there. But due to her own stubborn mindedness, it could easily have gone a completely different way. And she might not be with us today. So, realizing our, uh, I don't want to say weaknesses, realizing changes and understanding when it's time to do something different can make things a lot easier on the patient, on the family. Uh, my own planning. If I stay stuck and stubborn, and it's only going to be this way, I'm making things a lot harder on myself and everyone else. If I can be flexible or stretched like a sock, then that means I can be happier with the changes that are going to happen. Accept it. It is going to happen. Life will will most definitely throw us things. And if we can be calm and clear minded about it and adaptable, we can be a lot happier. I didn't expect to have to drop everything and get on an airplane. Fortunately, I was able to do that. And I was of a mindset that, okay, this is what's going on now. Let's go. Let's see what's happening. Let's figure out what we need to do. And let's go with it. Let's evaluate and then make clear-headed decisions. And if one thing doesn't work out, we will keep going. Um, The first day that we had looked for long-term care, we kind of, my mom's friend and I had kind of picked one out. We were sort of okay with it. That night, both of us separately had decided, maybe we need to keep looking. The next morning, we shared our feelings with each other. This doesn't feel right. We need to keep looking. We need to, uh, we can't be stuck on this one idea. We need to keep looking and not take just the first or second thing because it meets mom's minimum criteria. So we kept looking and we did, ultimately find something that mom's as comfortable as she can be with. I mean, she's, a little still kind of resistant, but coming around to the situation. Um, but we're all comfortable with the choice of where she is now, as opposed to having second thoughts and second guessing ourselves. Did we do the right thing? Does this one really meet the criteria after all? And it's because we were flexible. So I just wanted to put that out there. And if you have any ideas, please feel free to comment. You have, if you're going through your own experience that you feel like you want to share, um, you'll get no judgment from me. And I hope anybody else watching won't judge either. Everybody's circumstances are different. We can't all make the same decisions. We have to work with what we've got. So please feel free to share, come back and join the discussion again. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for the next topic. Um, Again, it's basically go with the flow. Let's see what happens and what comes up to talk about. So on that note, thank you very much for joining me today, and I hope um, I hope you're having a pleasant day and that you're feeling as blessed as I am right now. So uh, go forth, be blessed, have a uh, have a peaceful and loving day, and I'll see you next time.